Do you know how America really began? It's a story much older and more complex than you might think. Let's peel back the layers of the United States, a nation constantly being shaped and reshaped. Long before the familiar date of 1776, this vast land we now call America was anything but empty. For thousands of years, it was a mosaic of diverse and sophisticated native nations, from the powerful Iroquois Confederacy in the northeast to the city builders of Cahokia in the Midwest, and the Pueblo peoples in the southwest. This continent was alive with culture, trade, and intricate societies. Their stories are the true foundation of American history, a prologue that is absolutely essential to understanding everything that came after. Then, the world changed. European explorers, driven by a quest for wealth, new trade routes, and empire, began to arrive. This marked the beginning of a profound and often tragic transformation. In 1607, a small group of English adventurers established a tenuous foothold at Jamestown, Virginia. They were seeking gold, but found hardship, starvation, and conflict instead. Their survival, dependent on the controversial cultivation of tobacco, set a precedent for an economy built on cash crops and, tragically, exploited labor. Just a few years later, in 1620, another group of English settlers, the Pilgrims, landed far to the north at Plymouth. Seeking religious freedom for themselves, they established a different kind of colony, one based on community and faith. Their story, and the iconic First Thanksgiving, has become a cornerstone of American mythology, though the reality of their interactions with the Wampanoag people was far more complex than the simple tale we often hear. These two colonies, Jamestown and Plymouth, represent the dual DNA of early America, one driven by commercial ambition, the other by idealistic vision. Over the next century and a half, 13 distinct colonies grew along the Atlantic coast, each with its own character, economy, and social structure. They were English subjects, but a new identity was beginning to form, forged by the distance from the mother country and the unique challenges of the American continent. They developed their own assemblies, traded with the world, and pushed further inland, leading to increasing friction with both Native American tribes and their French rivals. This tension erupted in the French and Indian War, a global conflict that, ironically, sowed the seeds of American independence. Britain won the war, but at a tremendous cost, and to pay off its debts, Parliament began imposing new taxes on the colonies: the Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, the Tea Act. For the colonists, who had fought and bled alongside British soldiers, this was a betrayal. They had no representatives in Parliament, and the cry of "no taxation without representation" echoed from the bustling ports of Boston to the plantations of Virginia. Protests grew louder. The Boston Massacre and the Boston Tea Party weren't just isolated incidents. They were flashpoints in a rapidly escalating ideological battle. The colonists were no longer just fighting for their rights as Englishmen. They were beginning to imagine a future without a king. The spark finally ignited in 1775. The shot heard round the world at Lexington and Concord marked the beginning of the American Revolution. It was a daunting, almost impossible fight. A ragtag army of farmers and merchants, led by the steadfast George Washington, dared to take on the most powerful military machine in the world. The following year, on a hot summer day in Philadelphia, a group of brilliant, flawed, and audacious men adopted the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson's powerful words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal," became a promise, a radical assertion of human rights and self-governance that would inspire people around the globe for centuries to come. Winning the war was one thing, building a nation was another. The first attempt at a government, the Articles of Confederation, was too weak. The young country was falling apart. So, in 1787, the founders gathered once more in Philadelphia. In secret, through heated debates and painstaking compromises, they drafted the United States Constitution. This remarkable document created a new form of government, a republic with a system of checks and balances designed to protect liberty while providing stability. But it was an imperfect creation. To secure its ratification, it included compromises that protected the institution of slavery, a deep and tragic contradiction to the ideals of the declaration that would haunt the nation for generations. With a new government in place, America began to look westward. The 19th century was defined by relentless expansion. The Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the country overnight. Lewis and Clark's epic journey opened a window to the vast, unknown West. The belief in manifest destiny, the idea that the nation was divinely ordained to stretch from sea to shining sea, drove settlers, trappers, and miners across the continent. But this expansion came at a terrible cost, leading to the forced removal of Native American nations from their ancestral lands, a brutal and shameful chapter epitomized by the Trail of Tears. As the nation grew, the festering wound of slavery grew with it. The country was divided, half slave and half free. Compromises like the Missouri Compromise only delayed the inevitable conflict. The abolitionist movement gained strength, while the South dug in its heels to defend its peculiar institution. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 was the final straw. The nation erupted into civil war, the bloodiest conflict in American history. Brother fought against brother, and the very existence of the United States hung in the balance. After 4 brutal years and the loss of over 600,000 lives, the Union was preserved, and slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment. But the struggle for true equality had only just begun. The late 1800s saw America transform yet again. This was the Gilded Age, a period of explosive industrial growth. Railroads stitched the country together. Steel, oil, and electricity powered new cities that scraped the sky. Visionaries and ruthless tycoons like Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Edison built vast fortunes and changed the way people lived. Millions of immigrants poured in from Europe and Asia, seeking opportunity and filling the factories that drove this new economy. They crowded into cities, creating a vibrant, dynamic, and often chaotic urban culture. The 20th century hurled America onto the world stage. The nation was drawn into 2 devastating world wars, emerging from the second as a global superpower, locked in a tense, decades-long Cold War with the Soviet Union. This ideological struggle shaped foreign policy, fueled a nuclear arms race, and even propelled the nation to land a man on the moon. At home, the fight for justice continued. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, led by towering figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., confronted the legacy of segregation and racism head-on. Through marches, sit-ins, and powerful acts of nonviolent protest, they challenged the nation to live up to its founding promise of equality for all. This powerful movement inspired others, women fighting for equal pay and rights, LGBTQ+ individuals demanding recognition, and many other groups seeking their rightful place in the American story. From the digital revolution that began in Silicon Valley to the ongoing debates about immigration, healthcare, and our role in the world, the story of America is constantly unfolding. It is a story of incredible progress and profound injustice, of breathtaking innovation and bitter division. It's a tale of ambition, struggle, failure, and reinvention. It's a complicated, messy, and beautiful human drama. This isn't just a story about the past. It's a story that's still being written, every single day. The history of America isn't just about famous names and dates. It's about the choices made by millions of ordinary people. And that story includes you. What part of history will you shape? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through American history. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.